One day, like anyone else, I always believed life would go on easily, at least until I reached the age of 40. But when that day came, I found myself standing at the edge of an entirely new road, with no map, no guidance. 40, the age when I thought I would have it all: a stable career, a happy family, and long-term plans all mapped out. But all I had at that point was an old suitcase, an empty house, and a soul full of scars. My marriage ended after 15 years. We didn't fight, there were no big arguments, but just the silent tears that flowed through the years. In the end, we realized we had been apart for a long time. No one just dared to face the truth. And then, one day, we decided to part ways. I never thought I would be the one to leave a long-term relationship, to start over from scratch. But when the truth was exposed, I had no choice but to accept it. After the divorce, I felt like I had been thrown into a vast, endless, empty space. No plan, no direction. I was like an orphan child in my own life, no longer feeling like I had a place to belong. The long days passed in confusion. I didn't know what to do next. Could I start over, find joy again, or would my life forever be trapped in destruction and pain? Still, one thing I knew for sure was I couldn't keep living in that ruin. I had spent the last 15 years building a family, loving and sacrificing, but now I had to learn to live again, to once more find trust in myself and in life. Every day, I woke up and tried to step outside, even though sometimes all I wanted was to lie in the empty bed. I searched for a job, began attending skill enhancement classes I had once skipped because I was too busy with family. I did all the things I had once thought unnecessary, thinking I was already enough. But now I realized that life isn't a perfect painting that we create. It's a patchwork that's constantly changing. I started attending yoga classes to find peace within. It was a small step, but it brought me a serenity I had never felt before. Yoga not only improved my health, but it also helped me reconnect with myself. I learned to look inward, to find joy in the little things, instead of drowning in the sorrow of the past. I also joined community activities, volunteering at an organization helping the homeless. It was an experience that changed me a lot. The feeling of helping others, even with a small act, gave me a new kind of happiness. I realized that no matter how hard life gets, there are always good things around us that we can share and receive. In the beginning, I felt like I was searching for something unclear, but over time, I realized I was rebuilding myself. Those first steps may have been slow and vague, but they led me to clearer and stronger steps. I began to notice changes within myself. From a passive woman who always waited, I became more proactive in seeking joy and happiness. I no longer feared new challenges. Instead, I learned to embrace them as an essential part of life. But this path was not always smooth. Every time I thought I had stood firm, life challenged me again. I faced new difficulties at work, in relationships with friends and family, but it was these challenges that made me stronger. I learned to rise after each fall, and I learned to love myself more each day. One day, I realized that my rebirth wasn't anything grand or spectacular. It was just small steps, decisions in each moment I had to face. But that was the only path for me to find joy, freedom, and inner strength. When I crossed into my 40s, I no longer felt trapped in the past. I had learned to accept, to let go, and to look forward. Life is never easy, but I was ready to continue my journey, even knowing it would never be perfect. And I began to realize that the years after 40 might be the most beautiful years of my life. What I lost was not the end, but just a part of the long journey to find myself. I remember the first interview after my divorce. That feeling as if I was standing on a strange road, not knowing where to go, only knowing that I had to keep walking. Every question from the interviewer felt like a knife stabbing at the weak spots of my soul. They asked about my experience, my future plans, the skills I had. I answered, but each word felt like a wound, slowly but deeply. I once had a career, a stable job, but now everything felt like a blank sheet, and I had to rewrite it all from the beginning. There were mornings when I woke up and didn't want to leave the bed, didn't want to face a long day, but I knew if I didn't step outside, if I didn't do anything, I would only sink deeper into the darkness. Sometimes I felt like I was rowing a boat in an endless ocean, not knowing where the shore was. Everything seemed meaningless. But then I remembered the reasons I was still alive, the reasons that kept me from falling. One day, when I looked into the mirror, I noticed something. I was no longer the weak woman I once thought I was. I no longer confused by challenges, no longer afraid to face change. That feeling like a fresh breeze blowing through my soul. I realized that no matter how painful, I could keep going. I could still find strength in the hardest days. But change was never easy. While I began to feel like I could control my life again, another shock came. My best friend, the one I had always trusted, suddenly left. She didn't leave by chance, but because she couldn't accept my change. She told me I was too different, that I was no longer the friend she once knew. At that moment, my heart shattered. Losing a best friend is a pain that words cannot describe. I didn't know what to do, didn't know if I could keep going without her by my side. But then I understood that everyone has their own path, and sometimes we have to let go to keep moving. Still, I learned a lot from this loss. I learned how to live on my own, to not need someone else to feel valuable. And most importantly, I learned to love myself more. Those lonely days, those sleepless nights, they all taught me that no one can make me feel happier than I can make myself. Happiness isn't something you find from others. It's something we must create for ourselves. One morning, as I sat in the park, breathing in the fresh air, I suddenly thought about the years that had passed, the years I had spent giving everything to family, to work, to everything outside of myself. Now, as I lived for myself, I realized that everything could change, but the one thing that wouldn't change was that I had to be the strongest person in my own life. I began to feel freedom, freedom to do what I wanted, freedom to pursue my passions. I started learning French again, the language I had forgotten long ago. I joined writing courses, leaving my first lessons about literature so I could create my own story. I no longer feared new starts. Every day was an opportunity to learn and grow. Every day was a gift I didn't want to miss. One day, as I stood among a crowd at a self-development seminar, I realized something important. I was no longer an outsider to life. I was a part of it. I no longer felt lost among the successful people around me. I could do it, and I would. I don't know what the future holds, but I no longer fear it. This feeling like a small flame burning inside my heart, a flame that will never go out. I understand that this life will always have challenges, but those challenges will help me rise, and I will never stop. No matter how many winds or storms, I will keep moving forward. Maybe life isn't always easy, but it's the struggles that shape us. A strong person, a person who knows how to rise after every fall. And I won't let anything stop me from moving forward. Every day that passes, I feel like I am no longer the woman I was yesterday. I no longer see life through a blurry lens of despair. But strangely, even when you feel the strongest, the waves around you can still pull you down. Like that time when I received a call from an old friend, someone I had been very close to, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. He called, and his voice brought back memories. "We've lost contact for too long," he said. "Are you okay?" I looked at the phone screen. That simple question felt like a wave crashing into my heart. Strange, why did I feel so confused? Not out of surprise, but a loneliness I hadn't realized before. "I'm fine," I replied, but honestly, I wasn't sure anymore. Conversations like that, don't they always leave a deep mark in your heart? Unasked questions, unspoken feelings. But I can't stop. I've learned to keep moving, even if it's just a small step every day. Time passed, and I gradually found myself in the simple moments. I began a new project, a project I had long dreamed of but never dared to start. I opened a small store selling handmade items I made myself. I clearly remember the first time I placed those items on the shelf, looked at them, and felt a strange feeling, but also full of pride. Each product wasn't just an item, it was my story. Memories, emotions sewn into every stitch. When the store started having customers, I felt a strange joy, a joy I had never dared to dream of before. But there were times when I stood in the store, looking at the items around me, and felt lonely. The loneliness I thought I had forgotten. At times like that, I could only sigh and continue with my work. No one saw those moments, but they were an inseparable part of this journey. This new job brought me joy, but it was also a challenge. I had to learn to take control, to face tough decisions every day. Some days I worked from dawn to dusk just to ensure everything was all right. But then I realized the more I worked, the more I felt myself growing. Even though I was tired, nothing could make me stop. Every time I saw a satisfied customer, every time I received a compliment, even if small, it made me feel I was getting closer to what I had been searching for all along. One day, as I stood in the store, watching customers come and go, I suddenly realized I had found something important. What mattered wasn't how many products I sold, but the feeling when I saw I was creating value for others. I realized that not only was I rebuilding my life, but I was also contributing to building connections, joys for others. That's the power of starting over. That's how I found meaning in the days I once thought were empty. And then one day, I received a phone call. It was a call from the recruiter I had interviewed with before. I got the job. When I heard the news, my heart skipped a beat. I couldn't believe it. A new job, a new opportunity. I couldn't believe that after all the storms, after the days of destruction, I was still standing and could keep going. On my first day at work, I felt like a child entering class. Everything was new, unfamiliar, and full of challenges. I didn't know where I would go, but I knew I wouldn't give up. I may not know everything, but I had learned that effort and perseverance always bring results. Even though I was tired, one thing I knew for sure was that I no longer felt alone. I had found strength in myself, from those around me, and from the relentless steps I kept taking. Every day, every moment, I felt myself growing stronger, more resilient. And then, one morning, as I sat on the bus going to work, I looked out the window. The scenery slowly changed. The tall buildings, the busy roads, everything kept moving on, but I realized I was exactly where I needed to be. It was a small moment, but full of meaning. I knew I had started again, and I would never stop. When I look back on the road I've traveled, I can't believe how far I've come. I once thought I wouldn't be able to get through the difficulties, the sleepless nights, the moments of weakness that seemed like they would swallow me. But now I realize that it was in those moments that I built strength within myself I never thought I had. I clearly remember the first time I stood before a mirror, unsure of what to do, not knowing if I could rise again. But now, when I look back, I see myself in that mirror, a strong woman, daring to change, daring to stand up after each fall. The pain is no longer a burden, but a valuable lesson. I am no longer the woman I used to be, the one I had lost in the years gone by. I've become a new version of myself, a woman who never stops rising, no matter how big the challenges. When I started my new job, I no longer felt afraid. Even though everything was still new, I had learned to accept change. Every day going to work, I felt like I was living with purpose. No longer a person lost in the world, I found joy in my work, in helping others, and in living for myself. Every morning, I no longer felt trapped in a long, meaningless cycle. Instead, I felt happiness in starting a new day, a day where I could decide for myself, do what I wanted. No longer afraid of the past, no longer worried about the future. I just lived fully in each moment. And then, one day, as I watched customers walk into my shop, I felt something strange. I no longer saw myself as a person starting from scratch. No, I am the one making changes, the one who can do things I never dared to think of before. The shop is not just where I earn a living, but where I find trust in myself. The products I make are not just objects, but my story, the journey from destruction to rebirth. But life isn't always easy. Sometimes I still face new challenges, situations I wasn't prepared for. There are times I feel tired, wanting to give up, but then I remember what I've overcome, and I understand that I can overcome any challenge. I've learned to face hardship calmly, not rushing, not panicking. As long as I trust myself, I can do it. I realized that no age is too late to start over. Yes, I've crossed the 40 mark, and I know I'm no longer as young as I used to be, but that doesn't mean I can't restart. In fact, it's an opportunity to find new aspects of life. No longer anxious about work or family, I can now live for myself, pursuing dreams I left behind. Even though there are times I feel lost, I've learned to find my way again. I don't need anyone to guide me. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I've found faith in myself and in life. I'm no longer afraid. Now I have only one thing left: to live fully, love myself, and keep moving forward. And then, one morning, as I sat on the bus going to work, I looked out the window. The scenery slowly changed. The tall buildings, the busy roads, everything kept moving on. But I realized I was exactly where I needed to be. It was a small moment, but full of meaning. I knew I had started again, and I would never stop. If you enjoy inspiring stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Deep Life Stories to listen to more beautiful stories about life, about the journey of finding yourself, about strength and unconditional love. Thank you for joining us, and may you find the motivation to begin your own meaningful journey.